Hello, everyone, and welcome to this week's edition of Anchor Watch. I'm your humble host, Bobby Jones, along with the executive producer extraordinaire, Sam. Uh, how you doing, Sam?
I mean, okay. Is this war over or is it just beginning? What's happening?
So about that, I there's so much to break down here. And we're going to talk a lot about that, international policy, how it's affecting. Then at the last part, we're going to turn domestically because I need to explain something in detail to people.
Yeah.
So let's just go ahead and kick off with the latest and greatest from President Trump and then Marco Rubio. We're going to go back to back, so y'all can get an idea of the seriousness of the determination of this administration to open the straits.
Let's start with Rubio and we'll head into Trump. Does that work?
Yeah, let's do that. Yeah, that's fine. That's totally fine.
Responsibility for this project, freedom, is on the United States because we're the only country that can project power in that part of the world the way we're doing now. We're the only ones that can do it, and we're going to do it as a favor to the world. Understand this. This is a favor to the world because it's their ships that are stranded. It's their fuel supplies that are stranded. By the way, there's humanitarian aid destined for different countries in the world that's stranded in the Persian Gulf right now. It's the fertilizer that they need for their food and crops that's stranded in the Persian, not our fertilizer, their fertilizer. So we want to be helpful, and that's why the president stepped forward, because we're the only ones that can. Frankly, we're the only ones that can.
So strong words.
Now, even stronger. A strong leader giving a speech from the desk. Let's have a look.
It took them 10 miles the ship was so big, but they respect us. They didn't used to respect us, but they respect us more than we've ever been respected. Our country now is the hottest country anywhere in the world. We had a country that was dead when we had that group of people that ran this country with their open borders, letting anybody come in from the Congo, from countries all over the world. They came in from prisons and mental institutions. We had a country that would have been a dead, if they won the election, this country would have been a dead country. Now we have the hottest country anywhere in the world. Go ahead.
So first of all, let me just
break
say,
it down for us, Bobby.
The energy that you're seeing from Donald J. Trump is very lackluster. I'm just amazed that the same people that went after Biden, and rightfully so in many respects, are not going after him. I mean, he looks like he's at a retirement home telling stories, to anybody that walks by. But and to be completely honest, that's about how everything what he says sounds. Rubio sounds like a kid that is begging for his father's approval with the hyperbolic statements. And why do I say this is hyperbolic, Sam? Because very simply, Operation Freedom, this whole thing that they put out right before the markets opened this past weekend to guide ships through the strait, which went from, U.S. Navy destroyers escorting vessels to here's a map of how we think the strait is open based on mines that we believe are laid and no one going. We now have heard that Operation Freedom has been canceled. Canceled. I don't know where to begin with this. It was never a thing. I told you guys on this show how hard it is to do both a blockade and to also do an escort in that area of the world. And despite all the rhetoric that you're hearing from the White House, I'm standing on business because, again, I've lived it, and this is not happening. It's not. What he is trying to do is cajole these oil tankers to move through the strait and hope that Iran doesn't shoot them, or maybe they do shoot them, and maybe they just keep going and try to force the strait open. It's not happening. And so CENTCOM can talk about how they shot 6 FIAC or FAC ships, which are basically fast ashore craft, fast and short. Their terminology for this in the Navy. You can talk about all the gunboats that you're shooting down, which are basically like luxury craft with weapons on them. You can talk about all of that. You can talk about how you own the air, even though UAE just got hit in Fujairah, a place that I was stationed. We'll get to that.
Brief today. Yeah, I want to get to that for sure.
Yeah. All of this, they can say everything they want to. But I've told everybody who watches this show, do not listen to the words, look at the actual actions and movement of forces. Here you have the UAE getting hit again this weekend. Okay. Iran shooting at U.S. Navy vessels. They got knocked down. Okay. This is all during a ceasefire, which Trump is using to skirt going to Congress for an actual authorization of war, because he says it's a pause and now he said it's over, but yet ordnance is still flying. None of this makes sense. There's no court internationally or domestically that uses logic and common sense that is saying all of this is A, legal, and B, that the United States holds all the cards. If that is the case, tell the tankers to move. If that is the case, tell the United States warships to pull into the ports they've been pulling into for over 50 years. I'll wait. But it ain't happening, people, because these are all lies.
So let me ask you, I want to play this clip from another clip from Lil Marco. But do you think Trump, Floofy Unicorn, hey, Floofy Unicorn, always great to see you. And everyone, by the way, in the chat, send questions. Like, this is such an incredibly complicated moment. And you have access to one of the guys who knows what's actually happening. So send questions. Bobby, I've seen, you've answered. There's no dumb question for Bobby.
Nope, there is not.
Send them. I will run them. If you're on Substack, I'll have a producer send me those questions here. If you're on YouTube or Facebook and so on, ask in the chat and I'll get them. So, Floofy Unicorns, he's wishing the problem he created away, and that feels so prescient because he makes these statements that are based not in any kind of fact, but they're based in the fact that he wants, right? So 2 questions. Is that a viable strategy? Number 1. But number 2, do you think that Trump is getting the wrong facts? Is he leading from a place of falsehood?
I've thought about this back and forth. My conclusion is I think he was grotesquely misled to lead into this.
Yes.
And I also think that people are withholding information the commander-in-chief needs to know. Why? Because their asses are on the line. If Hegseth goes to the president and tells him our stocks are depleted, and he hears it from him, because right now he'll hear it from the media. He thinks that's just the fake media doing fake media stuff. But if he hears it from Hegseth, if he hears that there is no viable way you can military your way out of this scenario, Hegseth is going to catch hell. He's going to catch hell. And so I think there is some hedging of information. I think it's very telling. And this is what I mean by, look at what they do, how the chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff in front of Congress has said he's not going to comment on something based on it being seen as partisan. Again, in my entire career in the United States Navy, in my entire life that I've been watching politics, I have never seen the chairman say those words. Why? Because he understands that there's a narrative that's being played, and I agree with you there, Meredith. I 100% agree that there is a mental illness that is kicked in that is amplifying all of this to the point where he believes reality bends to his will. Now, part of that is because the Republican Party has done everything, and I mean everything, that he's ever wanted, for the most part, without questioning. Now you're starting to see pushback in the GOP because of approval ratings, cost of living, all these things, and the midterms are coming. And so now they're withholding that information more. You see the push to redistrict all over the country. We're going to get to that in the end. And all of these things happening because they're trying to create the reality that he thinks exists. And my question for the Republicans that are supporting all of this is, what are you going to get out of this long term? What the hell you plan on getting out of this long term? Unless you are trying to permanently alter the system, which you're saying that's ridiculous, using the fascist talk and all that. What is the end game here? What is the end game, both internationally with Iran, the president's going to see freaking Xi next week? China. What's he going to say to him?
Look, the American agenda could have been served by having an earnest leader or someone who at least had a policy or a plan or a strategy or a belief system other than enrich myself, right? But now she's gonna talk.
Yeah.
Trump has to listen. And
Yes.
she's gonna say, do this and do this and do this. You hold no cards, in fact.
Well, and here's the other piece of this too, and I've seen it in the chat. I'm going to address this again. Everybody's asking, why doesn't the military basically rebel against the top leader? Let me be very clear with y'all. That's not going to happen because, number one, if you ring that bell, you will never be able to unring it again in American history.
Yeah.
Okay, let me be very clear with y'all. This is not a movie. And we're not some other country. That is not how we are trained. That is not how we are indoctrinated. When George Washington gave up command of the Continental Army in Annapolis, Maryland, gave up his sword and went back to Mount Vernon, he set a precedent that the world at the time could not understand. Why would he give up the power that he gave up? Because they recognize that this is supposed to be a republic democracy, not one person. So stop it with that. It's not going to happen. You know what's supposed to happen? Congress doing their fucking job. Stop looking at the military to do what the people you put in office are supposed to do. Okay? It's that simple. The entire cabinet that he appointed, they're supposed to stop this too. That's why we have a 25th Amendment. Why is it that it falls on the United States military to have to be able to balance the politics, fight the war, deal with damaged supply lines, and deal with stupid decisions? Stop blaming us. Stop asking us. And I'm on a rant on this because y'all are lazy. Call your congressman. Stop asking for the people in uniform to do more. We've done enough. Do you understand what I'm saying? We've done enough. We're tolerating the ramifications of y'all's electoral choice. And we always have. So stop asking for generals and admirals to do something that happens in other countries that leads to instability. And that's the last time I'm going to talk about this. You guys need to stop with that nonsense. Now, back to this, right? You have a House and Senate Armed Service Committee. Do y'all even know who's on the damn committees? See what I'm saying? This is where accountability as a citizen comes into play, people. We have a Secretary of State that has no idea what the hell they're supposed to be doing. You have a Secretary of Defense who thinks he's playing with toy soldiers in the sand. And you guys are asking the damn admirals and generals who have to worry about actual lives being lost? Come on now. Come on. Y'all are smarter than this. Get off of your consciously lazy asses. Pick up a goddamn phone. Dial 10 digits. You can go to Congress's website and call those people specifically on the Senate and the House Armed Service Committee. And ask, what is the plan and why aren't you doing something? I've already done it. As opposed to also serving 26 years being the person on the other end of this. But stop scapegoating, because here's the thing. What's to stop this if Trump somehow is kicked out of office or dies or whatever, and Vance is doing the same thing? Now what? We back at it again. The system is designed for citizen action. And they're trying to manipulate the citizens and the system itself to stop the citizens from doing their jobs. That's what's happening.
Bobby, you're pissed, and you should be. You have every right. And here's the thing. These policies are falling very quickly on the armed services, right? You guys are always the tip of the spear. And you said something, that he's playing you like pawn chips, like pawns. But like actual pawns, like pieces of plastic that are expendable, right? That will move his ego in some particular way. And the thing is, all of his policies are having really bad effects on everyone.
Yes.
But almost no one is suffering more right now than the men and women in the Middle East.
Let me put it to you like this. The military in the Middle East, the civilians in the Middle East, they're dealing with uncertainty. And I know that a lot of you guys are calling, and I'm asking y'all to keep calling, because I'm telling you now, every day there's a sailor out there in 100 and some odd degree heat that's waking up and going on watch. They don't know when they're coming home. Okay. Imagine you guys going and doing your jobs and not knowing when you're going to come home. That's them right now in the most fraught waterway on the planet. So I know it's a lot to keep asking y'all to keep calling or writing or emailing. But damn it, if they can do that, then you can do this. It takes 5 minutes. If each citizen took 5 minutes out of their day to hit their congressman up, this wouldn't be an issue. To be completely honest, what has happened is we've become apathetic to the sacrifice to live our lives comfortably here in the United States. None of y'all are worried about getting bombed. None of y'all are worried about running out of gas or water. No one, right? But what's making that possible is people, not just the military, you have government workers, you have people who are doing these hard jobs, right? And the system right now is being abused by a man who's calibrated it to be used for his own personal use. The New York Times and everybody's calculating how much the Trump family has made since coming back in office the second time. We're talking in the billions with a B, right? And the reason they're getting along or getting away with it is because there's a Congress that's not doing their job, because the Congress does not fear the people that sent them there. Flat out, point blank. And here's the excuse that I hear from a lot of people saying, well, my congressman is not doing a bad job. Throw all the bums out. Throw them all out and start over, because this is the one reason we don't have term. The one thing, the president of the United States has term limits, but Congress does not. The Supreme Court does not have term limits, right? Think about this. What are the two dysfunctional arms of the three in our government right now? You think that's a coincidence? Do you think that's a coincidence? This goes back to when we talked all the way back months ago about civics and understanding what the job of government is, right? And so, not to be on a rant, but the policies that we're seeing, UAE backing out of freaking OPEC, freaking China sitting there waiting for the United States next week because they're going to dictate to us for the first time ever in that discussion, Russia laughing as they're providing satellite imagery to Iran to take out said American soldiers, airmen, Marines, and sailors that I'm talking about, right? All of this is collective. This is collective to the fact that we have not held them accountable. Now, I know you guys are saying Congress is not responsible. When you vote them out, they will respond. That is the thing. When you stop donating to their PACs and this, that, and other, they will respond. The only thing Congress understands is the fact that they could be removed at any point in 2 years. That's the beauty of the House in particular. And the Senate, the Senate is really the only place we're seeing a bubbling of any type of resistance right here, right?
Right.
And that's the thing. You see these places swinging. Let me ask you all this question. Let me just, why should the Republican Party change course from what's happening right now? Why should they? Because as the gas prices go up, do you think it affects the members that sit on the Hill? Okay. I mean, I'm just asking these fundamental questions. What incentive have we, the people, given them to change collectively? Listen, we all know that one person that has acted completely irrational to justify the insanity that they're seeing, right? Family members have been, split apart, etc. So I'm telling you now, the only way, these primaries, you need to show out. You need to show up and show out and vote. Those numbers should not be as low as they are. This midterm election should have as many people voting as a presidential election. It's that important. Because if not, and this is the last, and I mean the last time that you can check the Trump administration while it's in office, can you imagine everything staying the same after November and there's no way to stop it? If the House is still Republican, if the Senate is still Republican, that's all I'm saying. So I'm going to kill my rant, but that's, dude, y'all are blaming the wrong people.
Even if the House and Senate both go Dem, right, there's work to be done.
Like that's the other piece.
Right. This is a major thing that Democrats tend to forget. We think the election is the finish line, and it's not. We have to continue to hold everyone accountable. And let me make this sort of finer point here about our armed services, because when I was growing up, everything had purpose. Being an American meant something, right? I'm doing something for my country or my neighborhood or my neighbor. We used to put flowers on the porches of our elderly neighbors on May Day, right? It was a quaint, dumb thing. And I wish to God we still did it, because it really meant something. It meant we were a community. Here we are. The armed services, in order to sign up, it has to mean something, right? Your service, it's called service, and that means it's service to something, right? And right now, my question for you, Bobby, is, and it came out in the chat too by, I think, Bourbon Broad, which might be the best name of the night. Probably somebody we all want to hang out with, Bourbon Broad. She asked about the mood and the how are the fighting men and women
morale
at the front? Yeah, how's morale? And look, and I'm saying this in the context of when you realize that you are in service to one man, and it is this man.
In my opinion, anybody running for president or vice president should take a cognitive test. And no president has ever taken one except me. I've taken 3 of them, and I've aced each one. 1 in the first administration, 2 over here. And whenever they get a little sassy, like, does he still have it? Does he still have what it takes? I say, all right, I'll take another one. And they are hard. There are many people in this room I know that are smart. They're not going to ace them. There are many people standing back there, the fake news media. I'd like to have them. You know, the first question is very easy, and they always show the first question is, you have a lion, a bear, an alligator, and
letting this roll.
What's another good? A squirrel. Okay? Which is the squirrel?
So this is the thing. He says this is for Trump. This is all for Trump. They love me. I am the best. You are doing this for me. I win this war. I call this war. And so clearly the men and women who are serving have to at least have this little nugget in their brain that is like, what am I doing? Who is this for? Who am I protecting?
Yeah. Well, I can tell you that because I've talked to people still on active duty. I know what I would have thought on active duty, that how do I put this delicately? A lot of them laugh at him until they actually have to go on deployment because of him. And then they wonder, what the hell? They're like, why? I know some people who just, who are literally getting ready to leave on deployment, and they are like, what in the hell are we going into? Right. And I'm glad Meredith brought this up, man. The fact that the man's been tested this many times says a lot. And maybe she can comment on, because I saw in the comments, they're talking about in Indiana, the people who said no to redistricting. Thank you, Indiana. All but one got primaried out of office in the state house. And the question that America needs to ask itself is the hard question that they never really wanted to ask themselves is, why? Why do we consistently feel as though that if one group gets ahead, it has to be at the suffering of another group, i.e. what's happening in Louisiana with the redistricting? Now, let's remember, people, all of the stuff we're talking about internationally, I keep saying this, it goes back to local. The Congress that we're talking about is composed this way because of local state houses. And so when Donald Trump told Greg Abbott, the governor of Texas, to redistrict Texas to get an advantage because he is scared of the midterms, make no mistake, that is why. He said it point blank. If we don't redistrict and we lose the House, they will impeach me. Why did he say that? One, because they already knew what they wanted to do. They were already talking about Venezuela back then. And BB had already been in his ear about Iran. People are not putting the timeline together. This guy is. They were talking about that, right? Which is why you saw the removal of JAG officers as far as war crimes and stuff like that. All of this was planned. And to make sure that Congress is complicit, you got to keep control, because he controls the party. So when you think about it, when they redistrict Texas, that started the free-for-all. That started the free-for-all that we're seeing now. And now, Virginia was the latest, and now Louisiana is pausing their entire election cycle to do something like this. Now, the thing that's amazing to me, the Supreme Court with Alito saying this, but a lot of right-wing talking points. like other shows online, like Breaking Points, they were talking about this, and I just laughed. They were like, you can't have this thing where you take into account race when you're looking at, these congressional districts. That may have been something when the Jim Crow South was around in 1965 when it was passed, but that's not the case here. And I laughed because, one, it showed an ignorance of history, but two, it shows a naivete of what's happening here. I'm going to ask you one simple question, Sam. Just one simple question. You look at Memphis, Baton Rouge, parts of Atlanta, this, that, and the other. How did those districts that are blue formulate in the first place, where they're heavily minority majority? How'd that happen? Any idea?
Well, I believe it was VRA, right? Voting Rights Act?
Well, yeah, but what I'm saying is those districts were created because the people were forced to move there based on this thing called redlining. Okay?
Right.
These redlined districts created the minority majority that you hate today. You didn't give black folks like me a choice but to live in certain areas. And now you got the nerve and audacity to say you guys shouldn't be represented. And I'll take it a step further. You can sit there and, well, redlining was made illegal in the 70s. Blah, blah, blah. Cute. I can point to bank after bank after bank that devalued black property and denied loans for blacks to move into the suburbs with their white counterparts. And so while you sit here and you look and laugh and talk about, well, you can't consider race, your society still considers it. The bank that I bank with, Navy Federal, was just sued last year for denying blacks, thousands of us, home loans that force us into those communities that we want represented. And now you're saying not fair. You clowns don't know history who are talking this noise online. You don't know a damn thing about it. You wake up in the morning, you put on your damn suit and tie, you check your whiteness in the mirror, and then you roll out, not understanding how you created the situation, and then get mad at people like me who are like, you're taking away the one voice we have. Tennessee has 9 districts and only one was blue, and now you want to take that away, Marsha Blackburn? And you say it in your nice little Southern wannabe Donna Reed voice? Get out of here with this. You people think that those of us, this is not ancient history. This is my parents' lifetime. This is my lifetime now I think about it.
This is right now, Bahabi.
Right.
Like any white person who doesn't understand that they are the incredible benefactor of racism is deluding themselves. And anybody like Samuel Alito, who's like, it's all, you know what? It's all fixed. We don't need any of this anymore. He's
if y'all think I'm making this up, if you think I'm making it up, go online and Google red line maps and then Google bank maps and match the two. You'll see it. You'll see it. Your congressional districts that you want broken, there they are, ladies and gentlemen. They weren't dictated by Congress. They weren't dictated by the State House. It was dictated post-World War II by banks who were told, don't loan to the Negro. Don't allow the Negro to move here. Your HOAs and stuff like that. And so here's the history lesson. You sit there now and say, well, that's not right that so many of y'all are collected in one area and you want actual representation. Okay, so then tell me what the hell we're supposed to do. Tell me. I'm curious because, again, I didn't make these rules. I didn't.
Look, here's another thing, and I want to get your take on this because Alito's whole point was that you can't take intentionality. You have to look at intention, right? You can't look at results.
Yes.
In other words, you can get shot in the face and die.
Yes.
But the person, if they didn't intend to shoot you, then no harm, no foul. It's totally illegal, right? That's what's happening here. And and the thing is so outlandish to me. So he's saying, and you have to take the edge case always in these arguments. If every black person is no longer allowed to elect the representative of their choice as because of what he's calling political gerrymandering, that's okay. That's fine. And saying that, in my mind, is a tragically racist thing to say.
Exactly. Because here's the thing. Number one, what you just described, I'm calling it the Dick Cheney rule. Remember when Dick Cheney accidentally shot his boy in the face?
Yeah.
But, it was accident, no charges, no nothing. It's the Dick Cheney rule, right?
Yeah.
Here's my problem with this, though.
It's very apt. That's a great name for it.
The intentionality happened through policy that the U.S. government backed. The intentionality is not to include blacks and other minorities in the voting process. The intentionality was to keep us out economically. Yes. And then the repercussions of that spilled over into voting. You didn't expect that. And because you have done the math and seen that African Americans vote way more passionately and way more often than the average white person, you want to dilute that, the delusion thing. But here's the thing, you're not diluting the economic strife you put us in. You're not diluting the fact that you owe us well over $80 billion for free labor adjusted for inflation for today. You're not
80 billion? It's trillions, Bobby. Trillions. It is trillions.
Hold on. That is just pure labor, not the branches that come off of it. If you talk about that, now you're talking trillions, right? I'm talking about what
economic
they could
output
actually
of this country. Yes.
Right. The backbone of the economic system to which many people have done very well. And we haven't got any repercussions. Exactly. Well, shoot, we can be all day with that. And so now you don't want to address the actual repercussions that were accidentally happening where you put all of us in one area. Like I said, someone talked about the book, The Color of Law. Read it, digest it, and then look at the world through that prism, and everything you're seeing right here, right now makes sense. Because here's the thing, bringing it back to Iran, overseas, the average service member is either poor, poorer, a minority, or poor white. That is the majority of the force. With the except the officer corps is different because of college and all that, but that is the majority of your force. Who are the ones that are most affected by these laws that we have seen? The minorities, the poor whites that they don't give a damn about. Because as much as blacks are screaming about this, you have people in flyover country that are mad as hell. I watched an interview of a Mississippi farmer that voted for Trump, and he is pissed beyond belief because of how this is disproportionately affecting people around him. It is unbelievable that people don't understand our history because we're like this. And this is something that plagues America in the West more than any other country. You go anywhere else, they're more red than us on this stuff. We're too busy living our best life to understand how that happened and what the cost of getting there was.
There's not ever been a cost for white people, right? And or a visible cost. And I think that, Alito is saying, ultimately, that we can't make any decisions based on race. But let me just posit one thing.
Yeah, sure.
Read the book Caste, by the way. You all should read that book as well.
Oh, yeah.
But one thing, every decision that white people have ever made has been based on race, right?
Very much so.
That is the fact. And in the 30s and 1860s and 1820s and all of that, you think that we were hiring a bunch of black people? No. Our decision, the first decision we would make is based on race. It's always been based on race. And now they're like, well, black people are getting a foot up. They're voting. They're like finding education. They're doing these things. We don't want that anymore. So we can't base it on race. We have a good system and white people will lose because white people... that's the thing. You can be mediocre and win, right? You can be a mediocre white person.
A couple of things there, Sam. You brought up some good points that are really jogging my mind now. First of all, the myth of zero sum. When you talk about economic empowerment, the myth they keep telling you is basically this is a pie, and if you give someone more of this pie, it's going to be at the cost of your slice. Every economist worth their salt, from Nobel Prize laureates to no, that is not the case, not even remotely. As a matter of fact, it's the opposite true. As your underclass gets more buying power and economic potential, so does the whole system. Now, the ones at the very, 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 very top may not feel that effect as much because of it, but everybody else, to upper class, to middle class, to lower class, everybody eats better. That's fact. Number two, you talk about the foot up, man. I keep hearing this. It's like, what is giving someone a foot up when you are buried miles? When you were buried miles, it's like, here's a foot. The mentality that basically, because this is happening, I think the New York Times reported on this, the mentality that if you are a black person that is hired over a white person, the white person can sue with the automatic assumption that the black person is not qualified. It's ridiculous. And for the other minorities who think they're not feeling this, ask Asians how that works. This is not just a black thing. We feel the worst of it, but it's spreading. But here's the thing. In this country, racism begat sexism. When you look at what happened in Virginia, when it became a colony, the first laws they passed to curtail people was race. And right after that, it was women. Okay? So you can sit there and say this doesn't matter, but you're seeing the same playbook being replayed 400 years later. And because you don't know history, you're not aware of it. My concern is this: what we're seeing internationally, which is having a direct effect on us domestically, is being enabled because we have people who continue to vote against their best interests because of identity that does not exist. The whole whiteness thing that involves economics, blah, blah. The poorest people I've seen in my home state of Georgia think they're on the same plane as Jeff Bezos because their skin tone looks the same and they vote the way they want them to. It's insanity. And it's been going on for centuries. And until people snap out of it, especially in 2026, nothing's going to change. It's going to get worse. And the rest of the world is passing us. So.
Well, that's my clip, guys. That's the one that's going to go viral. So look on the internet for it tomorrow. If anyone, again, you guys, this chat is live. I love you guys. They're all sending book recommendations, Bobby. I think
please, dude, I love reading. If I can't read it, I got my Audible subscription. This is how we get better. This is how we get well informed.
And look, yes, and I think that every white person has to struggle with this and has to face the bullshit that we ourselves have put into the world, and we have to call it out when other white people do it.
Right. So hold on. So Douglas in the chat said, hold on. Are you saying there's no cost to us as white people too? There's been a cost to all of us.
It's a huge 100%, cost.
100% agree. There's been cost to white people too. This country did not just manifest itself. However, here's the difference. The cost, the sacrifice that all of us have made has not been adjudicated fairly over the centuries, over the decades, over the months, over the years. When someone who looks like me goes through something, we have literally socialized the fact that my suffering does not matter as much as someone else's. My complaints don't matter as much as someone else's. Do you think it's a coincidence the highest infant mortality rate and mothers dying in birth are Black women? Do you know how many stories that when they go to the emergency room saying they're hurting, they get ignored? There are tangible, unbelievable facts that if you took 2 seconds to look up, this is not the same game we're playing with the same rules. It's not. That's not to say that the suffering that you go through is not justified. It is, and it should be recognized. But if you think you should be recognized for going through some shit, I got some stories that we can compare notes, and let's see how you take it. That's the thing. There is this absolute insanity where it's like this person's life matters much more than this other person's because of whatever features, and you're saying on paper that all men are created equal, right? The founding fathers knew what they were doing. They knew they didn't have the moral courage to live up to it at the moment, but they knew what they hoped for a future. They wrote about it. Jefferson, who's probably the biggest hypocrite our country ever created, wrote about it before he died because he knew. They all knew. So I'm not saying anything that's new. I'm putting it in 2026 terms so you can understand. We did not wake up to this morning with Donald Trump over there talking about, I'm going to walk away from a war that I started just because it happened. There were steps that led to this. And the people who need to hold themselves accountable the most are the American citizenry who votes. Period. Period. We created this for whatever reasons, but that's it.
I think you talked about zero sum, the zero sum illusion, which resonates a lot with me because my suffering isn't intended to lift you up, right? Your suffering isn't a ladder to the top for me, right? And I think this is like when we get down to it and we're trying to envision a better world, and that's what we really have to be doing. We can't just shit on Trump. It's so easy to do, but we can't just tear it down. We have to think about the world that we want to live in, and it's not zero sum. Like if I lift you up, I get lifted up.
That I was literally about to say that. This is the other piece I want to say to Douglas too, specifically. The suffering that you or maybe your family has gone through 100% should be recognized.
Mm-hmm.
And where help is needed, we all should rally to help. I 100% believe that. As a matter of fact, I'm not the only person that thinks that. There are a lot of people that look like you who think that. It's not a coincidence where you think about it like this, especially in the Deep South, where you have heavily Black communities. You right next door to them have the poorest white people. It's not by coincidence. It's because because of the survival mechanism that has had to happen. They figure out a way to get along. It's not perfect, but this, that, and the other. We all have our stories, our parents, our grandparents, our ancestors, whatever. The thing is, acknowledge all of it. And when you deal with people who go out of their way to discount it, or in this administration's case, blatantly erase it, because again, who are they erasing? Whose history are they erasing the most? Right? They actually talked about shutting down the African American National Museum. I mean, what are we doing? What are we doing?
You guys got to go see that, by the way. We just saw it.
I'm just saying,
man. It's
man.
incredible. Oh my God.
How you treat the least amongst us is how we get treated, how we can judge a society. That's how you can do it. You know, and if you want this to be a meritocracy, everybody has to start from the same spot, and we haven't, and we won't. The system is corrupted to the point where it's very difficult to do that. And if you did, the people who right now have the most wealth, they probably wouldn't be on that side 50 years later if everybody started from the same spot. It's just fascinating to me, the assumptions made because of the money and the eliteness that certain people get to enjoy.
Yeah, and Patrick, I haven't been scrolling the Substack chat for a while, so it's good to see your name. I'm assuming it's the same Patrick who always gives zingers. But this is a great point. It's a very good point. Like the upper echelons, the Bezos, the Musks, all the Trumps, all of them want us to fight each other, right? Yep. To think that the other is the enemy. Yep. And some of us have really bought into that. And I think MAGA has really, really, really bought into that. And all of us do to some reason when it comes to race in all of those cases. I'm not your enemy.
People are looking for a reason in this generation, especially with social media. I think narcissism is at an all-time high. But I think people are doing this specifically because they need to feel like they're better than somebody. Because right now, life is kicking all our asses.
Yeah.
I mean, seriously. I'm out here in California and I'm like, I can't believe what these people are paying for food and gas out here. This don't make no damn sense to a Georgia boy, right? So I'm sitting here and I'm just like, but man, you're getting beat and you want to feel better than somebody. You want to feel like I matter and I have value. And if that means someone else is suffering from below me, then that's so be it. And I think a lot of this voting for Trump goes in and tells you, you're just like me, when he knows it's a damn lie. Because everything that he is doing is affecting not just minorities, but white people, middle class, who are doing an honest day's work that treat people like they want to be treated, which you want out of your people, and they're getting crapped upon too. This is not this whole party and race stuff. If nothing else comes from the Trump era, you need to take away that if you are not elite, they don't think you matter. Period. They want to spend billions on this damn ballroom. Do you know how much free lunch our kids could have with that same money? You see what I'm saying? The ones that are struggling to get food, go to school hungry, take that same amount of money, the $1 billion in security, the $500 million in private donations, our kids eat for over a year all over this country, not having to worry about lunch money. But see, that's the type of stuff that just
Look, during the pandemic, there's a community center in my town that does a Center for Creative Education, and it's amazing, and it serves a bunch of kids, and they are exuberant. They put on like parades, do all this kind of stuff. The big community center. And during the pandemic, a lot of them couldn't make it in after school. It was the only place they had to go after school. And it surfaced that some of the like 5-year-olds were at home babysitting their 8-month-old sister, right? This is the world in which we live, because their parents were frontline. workers, and not only frontline, but nobody was going to give them like, vacation pay or sick pay, or pay them to stay home. Right. These people they were working 2 or 3 minimum wage jobs, and they had no choice. So their 5-year-old took on, the role of big kid, big sister, big brother. And this is like that is what we should be fighting against.
That's right.
Nobody in America should be doing that.
That's
like
exactly
a ballroom. Fuck you, man.
I mean, that's my point, right? My blood boils when I hear stories like that. When I see, there was a woman on TikTok that took out a $90,000 loan to go to school to get her undergraduate and master's degree. She's paid $160,000 on it and owes $220,000. Okay, yes. But here's the thing: if you sit there and say, "Hey, college debt relief across the board," people get upset. And it's the elites that get upset. Meanwhile, those same elites, when they lose money, who do they come to get bailed out? Us. It's unbelievable. It has nothing to do with math, has nothing to do with money, it has nothing to do with priorities and principles, because this woman is paid well over what she already borrowed. It's the fact that I need to keep you underfoot. I don't care what your color is, this and the other. And that's what the second America figures that out. Where it's like, bruh, it has never been about skin color. That was the most arbitrary thing that we have found. The term white was invented in the United States and exported to the world. Let that marinate. It happened in Virginia. Google it. Okay? People did not think of it. They had to come up with a way to divide up the working class. They had to. And now we have made this our lifeblood, and it's killing us like a slow poison. We've got to get over it. We've got to acknowledge the pain, and then we got to sit there and say no more of this and move forward with this. I've seen the hardest working people I've seen in my life are the same people that are running from ICE right now, and everybody's cool with this.
Look, speaking of Supreme Court, you can't consider race in college admissions. You can't consider race in gerrymandering, but you can consider it at the Home Depot, right?
Yep.
You can consider it in the fields where our crops are grown. You can consider it when you're trying to tear down. You just can't consider it when you're trying to lift up.
Trying to build up. That's the problem, Sam. And I do think personally that we're better than this. And I think we can eventually, to quote Dr. King, overcome it. I got friends that live overseas that think America's cooked. They think we're done. They think that we don't have the mental dexterity to realize what is happening and to pivot. And I'm telling you right now, the America's at its greatest when it's the most underestimated, historically speaking. It always has been. And we've always thought about it in times of war or times of money. Well, this is the mental and emotional war that we've put off for 250 years. And the question is, this experiment that usually, empires last around 300 to 400 years. This is the pivot point. This is everything that the founding fathers talked about. And here we are. And it took someone who was the exploitive version of all these things to get there. No, I cannot go to the White House. Actually, I appreciate that, but they shooting up everything at the White House in D.C. I'm good. I'm good.
I'm afraid I'm not qualified for Bobby's VP. I don't know if I can be a chauffeur. If we're being honest. Bobby, guys in the audience, I know Bobby, you got a bolt here in a minute. You're in California doing real work. I just want to say thanks for tuning in at 8 West Coast. Everyone, your love in the chat is always so motivating for me, at least. I think Bobby loves it too.
Definitely. Thank you, people.
And if you like this 8 o'clock time, we're going to stick with it. It just seems like a consistent time. It also means we can reach audiences on the West Coast as they get home from work and do all that kind of thing. But I would love to hear in the comments when we post this video if you like the 8 o'clock time.
Mm-hmm. And by the way, the comments, man, y'all are my people, because the book recommendations, education is the lamp. You are absolutely right. I mean, it's us educating one another, and that is how this is supposed to work. It's not about me pontificating or Sam pontificating. Y'all have to educate all of us too, And yes, God, for Harry S. Truman, who I fundamentally believe is one of the most underrated presidents we have ever had, that right there, from a man that didn't get to graduate college, who fought in the trenches in World War I and had to make some seismic decisions as president that no one expected. You know, you gotta stay ready. I mean, if you have not read his biographies, boy, woo, Harry S. Truman is something else.
Crazy, like crazy. Well, that's a topic for another show, Bobby. It's been we've let a perfectly good hour slip away. I appreciate you, man. And this episode is going to have a ton of clips. That's all I got to say
about that. Well, thanks, guys. And if anything pops up, if we got to go live, we'll do it. We appreciate it.
Wonderful. Thank y'all. See you next time. Thanks, Bobby.